like to see government invest more in the production and dissemination of media with local content. There are many partners in this audience that are producing media for children, that are producing programming for children, and they would like to see government making it a particular area of focus. And since the issue of children's affairs falls under your ministry, we urge you to talk to the Minister of Finance to ensure that funding for programming with local content for children is addressed. But we'd also like to hail journalists in this country and other media producers that have done a fantastic job to produce local programs, local content for children, and many of them have been invited and they'll be showcasing their work in this area, Mr. Minister. We're also glad that the Uganda Communications Commission has made it mandatory for all media players to ensure that content for local programs is ensured and is observed on our airwaves. We think this is one way to boost the production and dissemination of content targeting Ugandan audiences, especially children. The other thing that we thought we should bring on the agenda is how much, for example, do we involve children in their programs? Most of the time, the content that we produce as adults reflects our kind of adult imperialism towards children. Rarely do we contextualize whatever we produce from the children's perspective. One scholar called Peter Handke has called this a form of colonialism of children, because we do not imagine the world of children, how children look at things, how do children look at issues like war and violence. How do they think about abuse that they suffer? How do children understand family planning, for example? One time, Mr. Minister, my wife was pregnant with our third child. And one of my kids, who was 8 years old at that time, asked the mother and said, "Mommy, what is in your stomach?" And the mother said, "Well, there is a baby inside." And the kid said, "But why don't you get out the baby and we play with him?" Well, the mother said, "Taking kids out of the tummy is done by doctors, so we shall wait for the doctor to bring up the baby." So my little boy ran off to go and play, and then he came back later and said, "By the way, Mommy, how did you put the baby inside?" Now that is a child's view of pregnancy. How do you put the baby inside the stomach? But the point I'm emphasizing is producing content that is child-centered. I think as people that are involved in content for children, that's a challenge we have, to always step out of our adult frame or adult worldview and look at content from the child's perspective. That way we shall produce content that is more beneficial to our young people. The other issue, Mr. Minister, which we want to highlight through this convention, is the issue of the rights of children, which we know your ministry is very keen on promoting. Through our partnership with GIZ, a German agency, and the Deutsche Welle Academy, and the National Planning Authority, we are running a project as a department on media and human rights. And children's rights is one of our focus this year. I wouldn't mind if your ministry proposed life sentences for people that grossly abuse children's rights. Mr. Minister. Because unless we propose and implement stringent penalties, then violations of children will not stop. Through this partnership, Mr. Principal shall be designing a young media hub in the department, through which we can be able to disseminate content targeting young people, but also to give young people a voice through which they can communicate with the wider world issues that affect them.
We also want to assure you that the College of Humanities and Social Sciences and through the Department of Journalism and Communication, we are prepared and we have the capacity to support and promote the science and technology investment that government is taking. And Mr. Minister, sir, science can only exist if it is for people. And it is, I think, our college and our department that can make science for the people. So we would like to request that as we talk science and technology, we do see humanities and social sciences, and we do see the critical role of journalism and communication, and certainly the role of the media in this particular regard. So the convention that we're having today is very, very critical in this aspect. And I like the way that the chair of the department has coined the theme, that it's media with local content for children and young people. So I think that element needs to be put. It's not just media for young people, but it's media with local content for young people, and that these young people then begin to be partners and actors in the social transformation of Uganda. Not for us to do it for them, but to do it together with us. And I would like to also inform you, Mr. Minister and the Deputy Head, that the college has also started, together with the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, a Center of Excellence for the African child. And we would like to appreciate the support that the ministry has given us. The ministry is on the Scientific Advisory Committee, and the ministry actually is the principal recipient of the USAID grant that is coming to this Center of Excellence. Finally, I would like to thank and appreciate the cooperation that we are having with the media. As Mr. Minister, you have seen, you haven't seen the College of Humanities and Social Sciences in the media for the wrong reasons. Neither have you seen the Department of Journalism and Communication in the media for the wrong reasons. And I think the thing is not necessarily because we do all the right things, but the reason is that we're working in tandem with the media, and we want to continue to work so in the promotion of media with local content for children and young people. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I wish you the best of deliberations in these conventions. And certainly when the chair comes back, I'm going to ask him not only how well the discussions went, but what next. Thank you very much.
My very special thanks go to the Department of Journalism and Communication at Makerere University for making children and the media the central theme of this year's media convention. And I also wish to highlight, of course, the support of GIZ, the German Agency for International Development Cooperation, and of Deutsche Welle Akademie for this important event. GIZ has given financial support to this conference, and Deutsche Welle Akademie is providing expertise, especially by bringing renowned experts in the field of children's media to Uganda. GIZ is normally known here in Uganda for contributing to the sectors of energy and water, and their activities in this field is somehow an exception, but a very welcome exception. And we discussed previously here on the head table the name change from GTZ Technical, which the T is for Technical Cooperation, to GIZ for International Cooperation. And the reason behind that was that GTZ after a merger with another institution expanded into the field of humanities and education. And the result is also this activity here today. Now, the Deutsche Welle Academy is the child of Deutsche Welle, the German international broadcaster, and it has become Germany's leading organization for international media development. They have offices in Bonn and Berlin, and they support the development of quality journalism and of the media, especially through training of media professionals. They have also done something very valuable. They have brought journalists and media people from several African countries together. Some of them are here today. Thank you very much for this very important exercise, because if we want to see local content, African content, and if we don't want to have imported content, then it is very essential that Africans work together to produce their own media content. Quality and high professional standards and high ethics are of utmost importance if we want to achieve advances in development and if we want to achieve a better society. It would be utterly wrong to assume that a poorer country can do with the lower standards. And it would be disastrous if we would assume that children could do with less quality and lower standards than adults. On the contrary, and especially here in Uganda, where it has been mentioned that Uganda has one of the world's youngest populations, and where children constitute the highest part of the population. Especially here, children need and deserve the very best they can get. Children are precious, don't forget this, and they are the future. And media content to which they are exposed will determine how they themselves will shape this future. There is a saying in German which says, was Hänschen nicht lernt, lernt Hans nimmer mehr. Which means basically that what you learn and absorb as a child is elementary, and what you have missed as a child cannot be easily compensated for later in life. There is another proverb in German, früh bringt sich was ein Häkchen werden wird. So you have to start early in the formative years. I think there is something in Uganda also which says akacha amamera. I see you know it. When I was talking about the subject with my wife yesterday evening, she says, yes, I know what you mean, akacha amamera. So, whereas in the past, mostly parents and relatives and the local community had constituted the environment that impacted on our children, it is now increasingly the media that take over this role in shaping their personalities and their values. It must also be taken into account that much more than adults, children are highly impressionable and may take media content as authoritative and as guidance. And this places an enormous responsibility of everyone in the media who is involved in one way or another with children's programs or any sort of media content for children. In fact, the media have to consider themselves partly in place of parents and to accept that responsibility. And it's not only the content in children's programs themselves, it's the general content of the media which has to take into account what children absorb from the media. And it's perhaps not very helpful that after a fantastic children's program, that children are exposed to media content which seems to suggest that all the happiness is in some sugary drink or in buying some product. So you have to take about this too and find solutions for it. Children have the right to expect that the media treat them seriously and care about their intellectual, social and physical well-being. Again, I wish to underline that only high professional standards in the media, respect for children's rights, respect for cultural diversity, freedom of expression, only this can ensure success in this endeavor. Let me thank you again for your participation and wish you a fruitful discussion in this conference and useful new insights. Thank you.
When you go to a country like Italy, they are also talking about media is based on objectivity and comprehensiveness. And here, they are talking about issues that will relate all matters regarding the public. When you go to countries like South Africa, in their Broadcasting Act, they want to emphasize issues of elimination of discrimination and fairness. When you go to countries like South Korea, for them they are very specific there. They have talked about promoting national culture and norms. When you go to a country like Taiwan, in their Media Broadcasting Act, they are talking about entertainment programs shall ensure the national culture, the Chinese culture and ethics. Now, when it comes to Uganda, of course, let me go to the side of the rights of children. You are aware under Article 34 of the Constitution, we regularly talk about the rights of children. And we have about 7 clauses under that article. And if you're going to talk about children's rights, that article is very important. Because you talk about the rights of education, the rights of non-exploitation, social, that is child labor. It talks about specific affirmative action for the vulnerable children and sub-clause 7. But before that, Article 32, which is very important in the Constitution, is talking about notwithstanding anything in this Constitution. The statement is that you can open your Constitution. Notwithstanding anything in this Constitution, the state shall ensure affirmative action in the favor of the marginalized, basing on gender, age, disability, or other factors, historical and others. Now, age. These affirmative actions have been mentioned. And when you go to the children's rights, that act, it is very elaborate on what we are supposed to do. Of course, the media regime here, legal regime, is also very elaborate. I am happy that Uganda Communication Commission is enforcing now local content. But when you look at minimum broadcasting standards provided for in our legal regime, very few people are following these minimum broadcasting standards. They are talking about ensuring that we are fair to everybody. What is happening today? When you look at the film industry, they are merely on entertainment, and they are talking about middle class. The producers are focused to middle class. When you look at the setting of these films, what is on here? They are talking about a rich group with the TVs and in the city center. These are very few. What is this that we are showing in these films? And the films are purely on love matters. Yes. And you can really talk about typical issues like child abuse without missing out love matters. But you don't take love matters as the major focus, and we miss out issues. So when you talk about local content, are we focusing on the real productive local content? Of course, we can have China Uganda everywhere, but which is also morally harassing the children, which with a lot of indecency. What is the costuming, the props we are using in these films? You are talking about ethics. You bring actors and actresses half naked. And this is when you say, okay, let us promote a Ugandan product, but we must also be cautious. What type of product are we giving out? Is it quite relevant? Is it not undermining the better growth of our society? I have listened to media houses. Well, me, when I was in Radio Uganda for 10 years, we used to have a declaration, a statement before you go to air. I declare there is nothing distasteful to the whole of the state in this program. Now, when you listen to these radio programs, it is good that my friends, the artists, are very many there. But it is quite appalling because sometimes you don't even listen. You don't want to listen to a radio station when you are with the children. Because the type of message there is really immoral. I'm sorry to say so. So I want to thank all of you in this partnership and say, beyond this, some other persons have done elsewhere. They form what they call media consultative groups. And I think one of the issues you do here is a media consultative group on issues of local content for children. And what do these media consultative groups do? They continue to do what we call monitoring issues, because when we talk and go, who is going to monitor and be able to report back? So that is one way forward. So we need a group of journalists who are really informed, who know issues of children affairs. We can really engage each other, we can have a lot of time, but I now take this opportunity to officially declare this convention. Okay, thank you.